China once placed a crown on a bottle of liquor. Years later, that same state had to watch the drinking culture it helped create more closely than anyone. That bottle is called Moutai. From the outside, it just looks like an expensive baijiu designed to empty your wallet, right? But inside this white bottle is a reversal stranger than most television dramas. It is the story of how a village liquor became a national symbol, then started looking like a perfect target for inspectors. Most people know Moutai as the drink of powerful executives and wealthy hosts. But its crushing price was never created by flavor alone. At some point, people stopped drinking only the liquor and started drinking the aura of money and power around the bottle. The story begins in Moutai, a small town in Guizhou province. The climate, water, and microbial environment around the Chishui River are treated as essential parts of the liquor's identity. From the beginning, Moutai was a drink whose value started with place. The ingredients are red sorghum, wheat, and water. That sounds simple, but where and how those ingredients ferment matters far more than the shopping list. The result is the aroma style known as jiangxiang. People often compare it to soy sauce or deeply fermented grain. That strange, heavy aroma became the very thing no rival could easily copy. Then comes the time poured in by generations of craftspeople. Official descriptions say one bottle requires 5 years, more than 30 processes, and 165 detailed steps. The grain is steamed, fermented, distilled, aged, and finally blended by experienced hands. This is less like manufacturing a drink, and more like compressing several years into a white ceramic time capsule. Moutai did not begin as one giant monopoly brand. Moutai town once held several local distilleries, each with its own methods and reputation. Then, between 1951 and 1952, the state entered the story. 3 distilleries known as Chengyi, Ronghe, and Hengsing were folded into a state system, turning a local liquor into a nationally managed product. The state did not invent Moutai out of nothing. It took an existing regional tradition and rebuilt it as a standardized national factory system. The effect was enormous. Quality became more consistent, production expanded, and Moutai stepped onto a much larger stage. Soon Moutai appeared at state banquets and among diplomatic gifts. From that point, it was no longer just something to swallow. Who opened the bottle when the glasses were filled, and who sat at the table all became signals of rank and authority. What accumulated inside Moutai was not only alcohol strength. The rarity of its hometown, years of production, and state authority stacked on top of one another. The white bottle had begun to walk out of the glass and into the real machinery of society. After the state banquet came the business dinner. When powerful people raised tiny glasses together, the bottle began to look like a master key for difficult relationships. Handing over cash is painfully obvious. An expensive bottle, however, can look like courtesy, respect, or refined tradition. That perfect ambiguity pushed Moutai into the gray zone of hospitality and influence. Eventually, the market stopped moving on taste alone. People bought the famous name, the shining box, and the social armor known as face. Moutai was no longer just liquid to drink. It became a business card placed on the table. When prices soar, counterfeiters always follow. But fake Moutai went far beyond copying a label and filling an ordinary bottle. Some reported methods sound almost unbelievable. Criminals drilled tiny holes into genuine bottles, removed the real liquor, refilled them with cheap alcohol, then sealed the holes to hide the operation. The outside was a luxury tower, while the inside was a wooden shack. By then, counterfeiters were not really stealing alcohol. They were stealing trust, social face, and the packaging of power. While genuine Moutai sold liquor, the fakes sold a borrowed version of its aura. As the stakes grew, the genuine bottle became the star of a spy film. Anti-counterfeit labels, special caps, tracking codes, and electronic tags all became part of its defense. Imagine pulling out a phone just to prove your drink is real. This bottle had moved beyond strong liquor and become an asset that needed its own identity check. The next step is even more absurd. Some bottles began to feel like investments that lost value the moment the cap was opened. Collectors stored them on shelves and watched price charts instead of tasting what was inside. Production year, limited edition, preservation condition. Once those terms appear, Moutai starts behaving like a collectible. For a while, it can even look like a safe asset wearing the costume of liquor. But no chart rises forever. When demand cools, inventory grows, and prices wobble, the belief that Moutai always makes money begins to fade. Bottles piling up in warehouses mean more than weak sales. When unopened stock returns like a boomerang, Moutai shifts from a symbol of celebration to a symbol of social hesitation. Then the state finally stepped on the brake. In December 2012, China's 8-point regulation signaled a campaign against extravagance, waste, and ceremonial excess. Lavish business tables could not escape that change. Moutai stood near the center of the target. The unmistakable white bottle had become the ultimate image of elite hospitality backed by official prestige. In an age of scrutiny, that visibility became a flag that practically begged inspectors to look closer. This is where Moutai's great irony becomes complete. The state raised a remote village liquor into a national brand, and that brand walked straight into the heart of power. But when the desire and social pressure around the bottle grew too large, the state had to restrain the symbol it created. The hand that once placed the crown later returned holding an inspection stamp. That is why Moutai is not simply alcohol. Its white ceramic body contains village tradition and state industry, the sweetness of power, the counterfeit market, and the cold tension of anti-corruption. Now, when we see this bottle, the real question is not the price. How does a village drink acquire the power of a state? And when does a state liquor become a handcuff for power? Moutai still carries those questions, staring back at us from the drinking table.